In Starfield, you can build an overpowered character using a single skill tree. In this video, I will test this hypothesis and find out, can you beat Starfield with only science skills? Here are the rules of this challenge. First, I will only spend points in the science skill tree when leveling up. Second, I can only use companions when required by the story. Third, I will only use effects on spacesuits and weapons if they are ones that I add through crafting. This build relies on a lot of crafting, so I prioritize skills such as spacesuit design, invest points in this skill to unlock research projects for more equipment mods. One of my favorite pack mods, Medic, increases the effectiveness of med packs. Weapon engineering, this is pretty much the same as spacesuit design for weapons. My weapon mod of choice, Hornet's Nest, is ridiculous. Research methods, each rank lowers the amount of resources needed for research projects and crafting. Pair this with chems such as Synapse Alpha to lower the requirements even more for a short time. I chose Professor as my background. It begins with 3 points in science, including research methods. This start will allow me to unlock higher tier science skills a bit earlier. If you enjoy harvesting minerals, then geology rocks. I'm lazy, so I buy them from vendors. It also comes with a point in astrodynamics. Extra grav jump range in the early game is a nice bonus. For my traits, I selected Serpent's Embrace for a health and oxygen boost with each grav jump, Wanted, so I can farm XP from the random bounty hunter encounters, and Introvert. Since I'm doing most of the missions solo, I'll use less oxygen for the bulk of this playthrough. While I started as a professor, I wanted to work with my hands, so I picked up a new job as a miner. On the job site, I unearthed a mysterious object, and the pirates arrived as soon as I gave it to Barrett. After a bit of target practice, we finished our conversation. Barrett, who I just met, handed me a watch and the keys to his ship, and I was on my way. I headed to Crete to take care of the local pirate problem. While there, I picked up a blue lab outfit for an extra 5% chance of sudden developments in research projects. These add a random amount of missing resources to a project so they can shorten the grind. I met Brogan the pirate boss on the rooftop, where we exchanged words and bullets.
Blood! It's everywhere!
With the pirate threat neutralized, I boarded my ship and headed to New Atlantis. Upon arrival, I went to the lodge to hand the artifact to Constellation. Before proceeding any further, I took time to set up the interior of my ship. Crafting mods for my equipment is key to this challenge, so I set my ship to do everything on the go. I used a workshop module since it already has spacesuit and weapon workbenches. I added a bed, research lab, and bounty kiosk, and I was all set. With my mobile base complete, I returned to the lodge to talk to Sarah to kick off the next mission. We started by heading to the Vanguard office to ask about the missing pilot. The recruiter gave me a speech about how you can be all you can be with the UC Vanguard. I turned on the offer for now and returned to business. After stopping by Mars and Venus, we arrived at the Nova Galactic Star Yard. I fought through the Star Yard, listened to the voice note,
This is Vanguard Moira.
and tracked the pilot's ship to Neptune. After clearing the ship of hostiles, I picked up the MacGuffin and returned to the lodge. I gave the artifact to Constellation and shot down my colleagues' advances.
I want you and I need you.
Next, I traveled to Aquila City with Sam and Cora after thwarting a bank robbery
No. This is...
and helping Sam deal with his daddy issues.
Want the both of you out of my house.
Happy to.
I finally headed to the cave. When I touched the artifact, I had another bad trip. I'm starting to think I'm allergic to them. After struggling to get through the gunfight with the Shaw Gang, I knew it was time for a change. What I needed was more firepower. To get there, I had to grind to max out weapon engineering and unlock Special Projects 1. All of this to unlock magazine and battery mods 3. With the research project complete, I could finally craft the Hornet's Nest mod. What it does is add a cluster of explosive rounds to each shot. I love the high damage output and wide area of effect. Use caution in close quarters, you can get caught in the blast. With my new upgrade, I made quick work of Matsura and his henchmen to free Barrett.
Well, I can't say I feel too bad about you killing someone who kidnapped me and probably murdered a lot of people. But
I headed to the Eye to get my next assignment from Vladimir. I ran into everyone's favorite femme fatale, Andreja, and one-shot anything with a pulse.
Meet your death.
Because I had to advance the plot, I went to the temple and picked up a force power. It was cute, but nothing compared to my high-tech toys. Next, I joined Walter on a trip to the wretched hive of scum and villainy, Neon. After doing a bunch of busy work, we were finally ready to meet up with the seller of the stolen artifact. I had to sit through the meeting a few times because I kept messing up the hallway encounter. Who could have foreseen collateral damage when fighting in a tight space? On my third attempt, I got the bright idea to corner the Slayton agent before pulling the trigger. After failing to set up a meeting with Mr. Slayton, I had to take matters into my own hands. I swiped a keycard and boarded the elevator. Security was on high alert, so I had to blast through the halls. The meeting with Mr. Slayton was short on account of the explosions. I finally reached my ship and had my first run-in with the Starborn. After a narrow escape, I returned to the lodge and Vladimir gives me the location of a couple more artifacts. There were Starborn standing guard, but I took each of them out in one shot. After disabling his engines, I boarded the scow and mowed down everyone on my way to the vault. Firing explosive rounds in close quarters isn't smart, but it makes entertaining footage. There's no way to avoid picking up a bounty when you take Petrov's artifact. This is exactly why I set up a bounty kiosk on my ship, to avoid any unpleasantness with UC security. While I was out and about, the hunter began his attack on Constellation. I decided to stay at the lodge to help the others escape. While they ran, I slowed down the hunter. And by slowed down, I mean pump full lead over and over and over. For my efforts, the hunter gives me a laser rifle.
I'm not usually invested in combat. I think you've overlooked something.
While not as powerful as what I have in my armory, it was a nice gesture. The next mission, called Unity, is uneventful by way of combat. There is a lot of talking in this quest. If you have Serpent's Embrace, the prisoner will give you a full set of Varun gear. After talking to everyone, you get the location of Pilgrim's Rest. You can read all the journals to answer the questions about the Unity to unlock the last room, or, after a couple of playthroughs, you've memorized the answers by now. This led me to the ancient ruins where I did a bit of pest control. Finally, I reached the rendezvous point and met with the Starborn face to face. Blah blah blah, philosophical argument over who deserves to wield the power of the artifacts. Before I leave, the emissary gives me a tip on where to find the next artifact. I landed on Earth and there was so much sand. I did some parkour, boarded the elevator, and strolled through the NASA building. I took a moment to browse the museum before picking up the artifacts. On the way out, I deleted a couple of Starborn from existence. Finally, outside, I had a huge decision to make. Would I side with the hunter or the emissary? I chose neither because, as Kendrick said, F the big three, it's just big me. Next, I arrived at Freya 3 and listened to the distress call from the satellite beacon. I landed and talked to Hughes, the chief of security at the research station. On the way to the director's office, I slipped between universes, one where the station was intact and one where it was not. In the alternate universe, I met Raphael, the sole survivor of an explosion during the experiment. My task was to shut down the experiment and retrieve the artifact. I wasn't poisoned that often, as I was able to one-shot most of the cataxi. Before heading down to the research level, make sure to check in with Dr. Barakova for supplies. If you find her journal in the alternate universe, she'll give you some extra provisions. Aside from getting turned around a couple of times, the mission was a breeze. Finally, I reached the lab and shut off the switches to stop the experiment. I made a quick detour on Jemison to join the UC Vanguard. I signed up, ran right past the UC history exhibits, and took the piloting exam. After pledging my loyalty to the United Colonies, I headed out for my next test. On Tau Ceti 2, I went face to face with a Terramorph. Unlike 99% of the enemies I had encountered thus far, it took more than 2 hits to put down. After clearing the probationary mission, I was a full-fledged Vanguard. My ship was going to need some more firepower for the final mission. As a Vanguard, I now had access to unique ship parts. I headed to ship services and picked up a few of these beauties. The Vanguard Obliterator Autoprojector. Each uses only 2 units of power instead of the typical 3. Next, I headed to Masada 3 to begin the final mission. All the skills for ship upgrades are in the tech skill tree, so I couldn't do much about my ship being a glass cannon. Fortunately, I had enough firepower and repair parts to get to the space battle. When I landed on the surface, combat was a cakewalk. Each copy of Guardian Musa went down with 1 or 2 shots. The next fight was a round of whack-a-mole as the Starborn kept swapping places with the Ecliptic. I took out Petrov and his crew with a single round. There's a universe out there that's missing their Vladimir. Fighting my duplicates was the hardest part of the mission. I finally got a taste of my own medicine.
That's my bar. He copied my whole flow.
That's kissed me through the phone.
He copied my whole flow. Word for word, bar for bar.
After getting destroyed a couple times, I switched to a pistol so I wouldn't go down so fast. I took out the last Starborn Guardian and was ready for the final battle. The boss fight was easy up until the duplicates came out at the end. I watched the lifeless husk of the emissary fall off the ledge. I picked up the remaining artifacts, and that's how I beat Starfield with only science skills. I hope you had as much fun watching as I did playing. Check out the video on screen now for another Starfield challenge. From Electric Sheep Gaming, this is Chris, signing off.
Although I have attempted an analysis several times, I simply cannot quantify humans' addiction to caffeine.